The Truth About Love, a comprehensive guide to lasting intimacy. Chapter 1. The Alchemy of Adrenaline. Everyone thinks they understand love until it hurts them, until it leaves them staring at a silent phone in the middle of the night, questioning their worth, wondering how something that felt so destined could leave them feeling so discarded. We are culturally conditioned from the moment we can hear a story to mistake intensity for intimacy. We see it in the cinematic chase through an airport. We hear it in the soaring, desperate lyrics of our greatest anthems. We read it in poetry that equates love to a fever or a wound. We are taught that if a connection doesn't consume us, if it doesn't sweep us off our feet and blur our vision, it isn't the real thing. We have been trained to believe that the more it hurts, the more it matters. But here is the truth that most people spend decades trying to avoid. Intensity is not the same thing as love. In fact, the very intensity you are chasing is often the biggest warning sign that you are experiencing a chemical reaction, not a soulful connection. We spend our lives chasing the lightning, all while walking right past the light. To find something that lasts, we have to learn how to separate the fantasy from the reality. Because fantasy is loud. It is a neon sign in a dark room, flashing with the promise of a quick high. Love, however, is steady. It is the sunrise, quiet, inevitable, and reliable. And to a heart addicted to the dark, the sunrise doesn't always look exciting at first. The dopamine trap. Let's look at the science of why we get this so incredibly wrong. Infatuation is a biological hijack. When you meet someone who fits a specific internal map, often someone who subconsciously mirrors the unresolved patterns of your past, your brain releases a flood of dopamine, norepinephrine, and serotonin. This is the spark. It feels urgent. It makes you check your phone every 5 minutes. It makes your mood rise and fall based entirely on the presence or absence of a single text message. Many people call this passion. Psychologists call it limerence. Limerence isn't a sign of soulmates. It's a sign of a brain lighting up the same way it does for gambling, sugar, or a high-stakes bet. It is a state of obsession that actually thrives on uncertainty. Limerence grows stronger when you don't fully have the person. It feeds on mystery, on maybe, and on mixed signals. When someone is hot and cold, the cold moments create a vacuum of anxiety that makes the hot moments feel like a life-saving drug. That isn't a deep connection. That is an intermittent reinforcement schedule. It is an addiction to the relief of being chosen after a period of being ignored. And addiction is the biological opposite of love. Love does not make you anxious every day. Love does not require you to decode cryptic messages like a linguist trying to solve an ancient dying language. Love is not a game of catch me if you can. The nervous system's lie. We often mistake a dysregulated nervous system for chemistry. If your heart is pounding, your palms are sweating, and you feel a flutter in your stomach, your body might not be saying, "This is the one." It might be saying, "This is a threat." For many of us, chaos feels familiar, and we mistake that familiarity for depth. If you grew up in an environment where love had to be earned, where you had to perform to be seen, or where affection was a moving target, your brain will subconsciously seek out partners who recreate that high-stakes environment. You are looking for a familiar puzzle to solve. When you find someone who makes you feel insecure, your brain misinterprets that vibration of anxiety as excitement. But instability is not depth. It's just inconsistency. High highs and low lows don't equal a deep relationship. They equal a roller coaster. And while roller coasters are thrilling for 3 minutes, nobody wants to live on one. Eventually, the motion sickness sets in. Real love is a nervous system regulator. It makes your body feel calmer, not more chaotic. It is the feeling of coming home after a long day, and finally taking off a heavy pair of boots. It is a slow-burning fire that keeps the room warm, rather than a wildfire that threatens to burn the house down. The quiet strength of the steady. Why do we so often walk past the steady people? Because they don't give us that immediate jagged hit of dopamine. A steady person is clear about their intentions. They text when they say they will. They are emotionally available. They don't play games because they don't have the ego-driven need to be chased. To a person addicted to the high of the chase, a steady partner can feel boring. You might go on a date with someone kind, consistent and open, and tell your friends, the conversation was great but the spark just wasn't there. But you have to ask yourself, is the spark missing, or is the anxiety missing? Are you looking for a partner, or are you looking for a hit of adrenaline to distract you from yourself? When we prioritize intensity, we are looking for a consumer experience, someone to hit our receptors and make us feel alive. When we prioritize love, we are looking for a creative experience, someone to build a life with. One is about how they make you feel in the moment. The other is about who they are when the lights go down and the music stops. The strongest foundations aren't built during the fireworks. They are built in the quiet, mundane moments of consistency. It's the reliability of a person who shows up when they are tired. It's the safety of knowing that even if you have a bad day, or if you disagree, your relationship isn't on the line. If you want to understand real love, you have to stop looking at the sky for lightning and start looking at the ground for a place to plant roots. You have to realize that the boring feeling of security is actually the luxury of peace. It is the only soil in which a soul can truly grow. Intensity can be manufactured by any stranger with a bit of charm and a lot of mystery. But stability? Stability is a rare and precious resource. It is the hallmark of character. And in the long run, character is the only thing that will hold you when the world gets loud. Chapter 2: The Foundation of Safety and the Myth of Effortless Love. There is a phrase that has quietly sabotaged more relationships than infidelity or distance ever could. It is the idea that, if it's meant to be, it will be easy. We've been sold a version of love that is entirely passive, a lucky strike of fate where two puzzle pieces simply click together without friction. This myth suggests that effort is a sign of failure, that if you have to work at it, you've chosen the wrong person. But this belief is a trap. Nothing meaningful in this life is effortless. Not your health, not your career, not your character. Why would the most complex undertaking of your life, merging your world with another human being, be the one thing that requires no intention? To understand real love, we have to stop looking for easy and start looking for safe. Because easy is a circumstance, but safe is a choice. The architecture of emotional safety. Emotional safety is the bedrock upon which everything else is built. Without it, you aren't in a relationship. You are in a negotiation. Safety means you can express a concern without fear of being dismissed. It means you can disagree without the relationship feeling threatened. It means you are not walking on eggshells, constantly monitoring your partner's mood to decide if it's safe to be yourself. In a relationship lacking safety, truth becomes a casualty. You start to hide parts of yourself to maintain the peace. You silence your opinions to avoid a fight. You reshape your personality to fit into the narrow space they've left for you. But love does not require you to shrink. It requires you to expand. When two emotionally mature people care about each other, conflict changes its shape. It stops being a war to be won and becomes a conversation to be had. There is accountability. There is a willingness to say, I see how I hurt you and I will do better, rather than, you're too sensitive. Safety is the knowledge that your vulnerability will not be used as a weapon against you when the honeymoon phase ends. The trap of meant to be. The effortless myth creates a dangerous byproduct, the walkaway culture. When we believe love should be easy, we interpret the first sign of friction as a sign of incompatibility. We assume that because it's hard today, it's wrong forever. But there is a massive difference between a struggle and a toxic cycle. A struggle is two people facing a problem together. A toxic cycle is two people becoming the problem for each other. Real love requires work, not the work of constant suffering or enduring abuse, but the work of intention. It is the work of choosing to listen when you are angry. It is the work of being curious about your partner's perspective when you'd rather be right. It is the work of showing up on the ordinary days, the days when the adrenaline is gone and all that's left is the laundry, the bills, and the routine. We often mistake drama for passion. We think the fighting and the making up, the tears and the grand apologies are proof of how much we care. But drama is just a distraction from a lack of depth. Real depth is found in the quiet repair. It's found in the person who stays in the room and says, "I'm frustrated, but I'm not going anywhere. Let's figure this out." Accountability over charm. In the early days of a connection, we are often blinded by charm. Charm is a performance. It's the ability to make someone feel special in the moment. But charm is a garnish, not the main course. What you actually need for a 30-year journey is accountability. Accountability is the ability to own one's actions without a but attached. It is the death of the ego for the sake of the connection. If you are with someone who is charming but cannot apologize, you are building on sand. If you are with someone who is exciting but cannot be relied upon, you are living in a house with no roof. We have to stop valuing how a person makes us feel about ourselves in the short term and start valuing how that person handles difficulty. Does they shut down? Do they lash out? Or do they lean in? Love is not found in the grand gestures of the beginning. It is proven in the small, repeated actions of the middle. The choice to stay engaged. Most people think love is a feeling that happens to them, but as the years pass, you realize that love is a verb. It is a series of daily decisions. There will be days when you don't feel in love. There will be days when your partner is annoying, or distant, or simply human. If your relationship is built only on the feeling, it will crumble during those dips. But if it is built on a commitment to the process of loving, it will endure. The strongest relationships are not those that never struggle. They are the ones where both people are willing to improve, to learn, and to repair. They are built on the understanding that meant to be isn't something you find. It's something you earn through consistency and respect. Real love is not a lightning bolt that strikes once. It is a fire that you have to tend to, day after day, with the wood of patience and the spark of intention. If you stop tending the fire because you think it should stay lit on its own, you will eventually find yourself sitting in the cold. As we move forward, ask yourself, am I looking for a partner who makes life easy, or a partner who makes me feel safe enough to handle the hard parts? Because life will be hard. But with the right foundation, love can be the one place where you finally get to rest. Chapter 3. The Myth of Completion and the Power of Two Wholes. You complete me. It is one of the most famous lines in cinema, and it is arguably one of the most dangerous ideas ever planted in the human psyche. It suggests that we are born as half-formed creatures, wandering through the world in a state of deficiency, waiting for a magical encounter with a soulmate who possesses the missing pieces of our identity. It sounds romantic. It feels poetic. But in practice, it is a recipe for resentment and emotional instability. If you enter a relationship believing that your partner is responsible for completing you, you are not looking for a lover. You are looking for a bandage, and bandages are meant to cover wounds, not heal them. The trap of dependency. When we believe someone else is our other half, we inadvertently hand them the keys to our emotional well-being. We become dependent on their validation to feel worthy, their mood to feel happy, and their presence to feel whole. This creates an immense, unsustainable pressure. No human being is designed to carry the weight of another person's entire identity. When you make someone responsible for your happiness, you turn them into a high-stakes emotional regulator. If they have a bad day, your world collapses. If they need space, you feel abandoned. If they fail to meet an unspoken need, you feel betrayed. This isn't love, it's dependency. And dependency creates a cycle of fear. You become afraid to speak your truth because you might lose the person who completes you. You become afraid to grow in new directions because it might disturb the fragile equilibrium of the two halves. True love is not two halves forming a whole. It is two whole individuals choosing to walk side by side. It is the difference between two people leaning against each other to keep from falling, and two people standing on their own feet, holding hands while they walk. The mirror of the self. We often think that love will fix the parts of us we don't like. We imagine that if we find the right person, our insecurities will vanish, our past traumas will be erased, and our loneliness will be cured. But love is not an eraser, it is a mirror. A healthy relationship will not hide your flaws. It will expose them. It will highlight your triggers, your shadows, and your unresolved wounds. If you feel empty without someone, that emptiness existed long before they arrived. Love simply gave you a distraction from it for a while. When the honeymoon dopamine eventually settles, that emptiness will return. If you don't realize this, you will blame your partner. You will think, they must not be the right person anymore, because I don't feel complete anymore. This is why so many people jump from one intense relationship to another. They are chasing the temporary completion of the high, rather than doing the work of becoming whole on their own. The power of interdependence. There is a middle ground between being dependent and being coldly independent. It is called interdependence. Independence says, I don't need anyone, I am a fortress. This often stems from a fear of vulnerability. Dependency says, I am nothing without you. This stems from a fear of ourselves. Interdependence says, I am a whole, capable person on my own, but I choose to share my life with you because it makes the journey richer. In an interdependent relationship, both people have their own interests, their own friendships, and their own sense of purpose. They don't lose themselves in the we. They understand that the strongest us is built by two strong me's. When you are secure in your own wholeness, you don't love out of a desperate need to survive. You love out of a desire to give. You aren't looking for someone to fill a hole in your soul. You are looking for someone whose light complements your own. This takes the pressure off the relationship. It allows it to be a place of play, growth, and support, rather than a place of survival and fixing. Letting go of the fantasy. To move toward real love, we have to grieve the fantasy of the soulmate who saves us. We have to accept the responsibility of our own happiness. This can be frightening because it means we can no longer blame our partner for our discontent. But it is also incredibly liberating. When you realize that you are already whole, that you are already enough, you stop auditioning for love. You stop trying to prove your worth to people who don't see it. You begin to look for a partner who respects your boundaries, encourages your growth, and values your autonomy. You look for someone who doesn't want to be your everything, but who wants to be your someone. Real love thrives in the space between two individuals who respect each other's separateness. It is in that space, the gap between you and me, where the most beautiful things are built. Because you cannot truly see someone if they are only there to serve as a part of you. You can only truly love someone when you see them as they are, a separate, complex, whole human being, choosing you every single day. Chapter 4. The Choice and the Change. We are often told that love is a destination, a place you arrive at and stay forever. But the truth is that love is more like a living organism. It breathes, it grows, it gets sick, it heals, and perhaps most importantly, it changes. One of the most painful realizations in any long-term relationship is the moment you realize the feeling of love has dipped. You wake up one morning, look at the person next to you, and you don't feel the electricity. You don't feel the butterflies. You might even feel a sense of irritation or worse, indifference. For many, this is the moment of panic. They assume that because the feeling has fluctuated, the relationship is over. They think the magic is gone. But this is where the world's definition of love fails us. If you base your relationship only on feelings, you will leave as soon as the tide goes out. And the tide always goes out. The fluctuating tide. Feelings are house guests. They come and go. They are influenced by your stress levels, your sleep, your hormonal cycles, your career pressures, and even the weather. You cannot build a foundation on something as unstable as a mood. Real love involves a transition from passive feeling to active decision. In the beginning, love happens to you. It's a chemical gift from nature. But after the initial high fades, love becomes something you do. It is a decision to stay engaged when you are tired. It is a decision to be kind when you are frustrated. It is a decision to look at your partner with all their flaws and human messiness and say, I am still here. I am still choosing to build with you. The strongest relationships are not built on a peak of constant excitement. They are built on the plateaus. They are built in the quiet, unglamorous consistency of daily life. Reliability may not make for a great movie script, but it is the only thing that builds a secure attachment. The power of repair. We have been taught that a good relationship is one without conflict. This is a lie. A relationship without conflict is often just a relationship where two people are too afraid to be honest. The mark of a lasting love isn't the absence of a fight. It's the speed and quality of the repair. When feelings dip or a disagreement occurs, the commitment acts as a container. It provides the safety needed to say, I don't feel connected to you right now, and that's okay. Let's figure out how to get back to each other. In a feeling-based relationship, a dip is a disaster. In a commitment-based relationship, a dip is just a season. This is where the choice becomes powerful. When you choose someone on a day when they aren't particularly easy to love, you are building a depth of trust that a spark could never provide. You are showing them, and yourself, that your bond is not contingent on their performance or your convenience. The evolution of the self. Another reason love must be a choice is that the person you married or started dating will not be the same person in 5, 10, or 20 years. And neither will you. Life will change you. Grief will change you. Success and failure will change you. If you are only in love with a specific version of your partner, the relationship will break as soon as they evolve. Real love is a commitment to a person's essence, not just their current form. It is the willingness to get to know them over and over again as they change. This requires a radical kind of curiosity. It means asking, who are you today? Instead of assuming you already know. It means being willing to mourn the version of them that used to be, while celebrating the version that is currently becoming. Choosing the work. We often avoid the word work when talking about romance because we want it to feel like play. But the work of love is the most rewarding labor you will ever perform. It is the work of keeping promises, even the small ones. It is the work of following through. It is the work of being a safe harbor when the rest of the world is a storm. When you prioritize choice over feeling, you gain something far more valuable than excitement. You gain security. You gain the knowledge that you don't have to be perfect to be loved, and you don't have to be on to be valued. You are loved because of a pact, a mutual agreement between two whole people to keep showing up. Feelings are the weather. Commitment is the house. The weather will change. It will be sunny. It will storm. It will be freezing. And it will be stifling. But if the house is built on the choice to stay, you will always be warm. As we look toward the final stages of understanding love, ask yourself, am I chasing the weather, or am I building the house? Am I waiting for a feeling to tell me what to do, or am I making the choice to lead with my character? Chapter 5. The Mirror of Growth. There is a common misconception that love is a healer, that if you find the right person, your past will stop hurting, and your insecurities will simply evaporate. We want to believe that love is a sanctuary where our demons cannot follow us. But the truth is that love does not fix unresolved trauma. It exposes it. When you enter into a deep, intimate connection, you are handing someone a flashlight and inviting them into the basement of your psyche. They will see the corners you've tried to hide. They will trip over the boxes you haven't unpacked. This isn't because the relationship is bad, but because intimacy requires proximity, and proximity reveals everything. The attraction to the familiar. We are often confused by our own hearts. We wonder why we keep choosing people who are emotionally unavailable, or why we are drawn to partners who make us feel like we have to perform. Psychology tells us that we don't necessarily choose what is good for us. We choose what is familiar. If you grew up in a home where you had to earn love through achievement or silence, your brain will recognize that earning process as the feeling of love. To you, a healthy, stable partner might feel boring or wrong because there is no struggle to overcome. You are subconsciously looking for the intensity of the chase because it's the only way you know how to feel valued. Real growth begins when you realize that chemistry is often just your trauma recognizing someone else's trauma. Healing happens when you start choosing what is healthy over what is familiar. It requires the self-awareness to say, I feel a spark with this person, but that spark is actually my anxiety. I am going to choose the person who brings me peace instead. The poison of possession. One of the most misunderstood emotions in the realm of love is jealousy. We have been told that jealousy is a sign of how much someone cares, that if they aren't jealous, they don't truly value you. This is a lie. Jealousy is not a sign of deep love. It is a sign of fear. It is a signal of insecurity and a fear of abandonment. When jealousy turns into controlling behavior, monitoring texts, restricting friendships, or demanding constant reassurance, it isn't protection. It is surveillance. Healthy love requires trust, and trust requires freedom. You cannot truly have someone if you are holding them captive. You can only truly have someone when they are completely free to leave, yet they choose to stay every single day. Control is the opposite of intimacy. Intimacy requires the vulnerability of knowing you could be hurt, but trusting your partner and yourself enough to stay open anyway. Love as a catalyst, not a cure. We often expect our partners to do the emotional heavy lifting for us. We want them to make us feel confident, to take away our loneliness, and to soothe our triggers. But while a partner can be a supportive witness to your growth, they cannot do the growing for you. If you struggle with insecurity, 1,000 compliments a day from your partner will not fix it. If you avoid vulnerability, the most patient partner in the world cannot force you to open up. Relationships often repeat patterns until we confront ourselves. Without self-awareness, you aren't in a relationship with a person. You're in a relationship with your own projections. Growth requires you to take responsibility for your own basement. It means saying, I am reacting this way because of my past, not because of what you just did. The freedom of trust. When two people are committed to their own individual growth, the relationship becomes a laboratory for expansion. You stop trying to shape each other and start supporting each other. In a healthy relationship, you do not become less of yourself to maintain the peace. You do not silence your opinions or abandon your interests to fit into your partner's life. Instead, you expand. You become more of who you are because you have a safe base from which to explore the world. This is the ultimate goal of love, to be a secure base. It is the knowledge that you have a home to return to, which ironically gives you the courage to go further away, take more risks, and grow into a larger version of yourself. Real love is not a cage, it is a springboard. It doesn't demand that you stay small so your partner can feel big. It demands that you both be brave enough to heal, brave enough to trust, and brave enough to let the other person grow, even if that growth takes them in directions you didn't see coming. Chapter 6. The Quiet Revolution. If you have spent your life equating love with intensity, the arrival of something healthy can feel strangely quiet. It might even feel like an anticlimax. You may find yourself waiting for the other shoe to drop, for the grand argument to erupt, or for the crushing weight of uncertainty to return. But when those things don't happen, when the person you are with is consistent, honest, and calm, you face a choice. You can either sabotage the peace because it feels unfamiliar, or you can embrace the quiet revolution of a stable connection, recognizing the calm. Healthy love is not boring, it is calm. There is a profound difference between a relationship that lacks life and a relationship that lacks chaos. In a calm relationship, the energy that used to be spent on decoding your partner or managing your own anxiety is suddenly freed up. You can use that energy to build a career, to nurture friendships, to explore hobbies, or to simply rest. In this space, you realize that you are no longer guessing where you stand. You aren't scanning for micro-expressions of disapproval. You aren't calculating how long to wait before texting back. You are simply participating. Participation is the hallmark of maturity. Chasing is an act of desperation. Participating is an act of presence. It is the ability to be with someone in the mundane moments. The grocery store runs, the quiet Tuesday evenings, the shared silences, and feel a deep sense of contentment. The beauty of the ordinary. We have been taught to value the grand gesture, the public declarations, the expensive gifts, the cinematic surprises. But as life moves forward, you realize that the most romantic things are actually the smallest. Real love is found in the person who remembers how you take your coffee when you've had a bad night's sleep. It is in the partner who handles the dishes because they see you are overwhelmed. It is in the consistent "I'm here" that doesn't need to be shouted to be heard. These small acts are the bricks of a lasting foundation. They aren't flashy, and they won't trend on social media, but they are the only things that will hold you up when the world gets heavy. When you stop looking for fireworks, you finally gain the vision to see the stars. The goal of expansion. As we have explored, real love does not make you less of yourself. It does not require you to shrink to fit into the relationship. Instead, it acts as a mirror that shows you your own potential. A healthy partner is someone who loves who you are, but also respects who you are becoming. They don't see your growth as a threat to the connection. They see it as a contribution to it. They understand that the more whole you are, the more you have to bring to the table. In this final stage of understanding, love becomes a shared project. It is no longer about what can you do for me or am I enough for you? It becomes what can we build together and how can we help each other expand? It is two individuals, stable and strong on their own, choosing to merge their paths to create a journey that neither could have walked alone. Choosing peace over fantasy. The world will continue to sell you the fantasy. It will continue to tell you that love is a wild, uncontrollable storm. But you now know the secret. Storms pass, but the ground remains. Real love is psychological safety. It is mutual respect. It is emotional accountability. It is the choice to value stability over intensity and character over charm. When you find someone who brings peace instead of confusion, you will recognize it. Not because it overwhelms you, but because it strengthens you. You will feel your shoulders drop. You will feel your breath deepen. You will realize that you have finally stopped running. This is the end of the search and the beginning of the work. And that work, the daily, intentional, quiet work of loving another human being, is the most beautiful thing you will ever do. As we bring this journey to a close, take a deep breath. If you are listening to this and feeling a sense of grief for the time you spent chasing the lightning, let that grief be a teacher, not a judge. We all start as students of the fantasy. We all have to learn, often the hard way, that the fire that burns the brightest is usually the one that leaves the most ash. The transition from a seeker of intensity to a builder of stability is a quiet revolution. It doesn't happen overnight. It happens in the small moments when you choose to pause instead of react. It happens when you choose a partner who makes you feel safe over a partner who makes you feel starstruck. It happens when you finally decide that your peace is more valuable than your pulse rate. The 4 pillars of real love. Before you step back into the noise of the world, carry these 4 truths with you. 1. Love is regulating, not dysregulating. If a relationship makes you feel like a chaotic version of yourself, it is not your soulmate. It is your alarm system. Real love makes you feel like you can finally exhale. 2. Conflict is information, not an ending. Healthy relationships aren't defined by a lack of fighting, but by the presence of repair. Look for someone who is more interested in us than being right. 3. You are the foundation. You cannot build a stable house on a shifting floor. The more you work on your own wholeness and your own healing, the less you will be attracted to the chaos of the other half myth. 4. Consistency is the ultimate romance. Flowers fade and grand speeches end, but the person who shows up every single day with honesty and respect is the person who is actually loving you. A final thought. The truth about love is simple, but it isn't easy. It requires us to put down our ego and pick up our intention. It asks us to stop looking for a hero to save us and start looking for a partner to build with. If you are currently searching, look for the person who brings you peace. If you are currently in a relationship, ask yourself how you can bring more safety and consistency to the table today. Real love is not found in the grand gestures or the overwhelming highs. It is found in the quiet, daily presence of 2 people who are strong enough to be kind, brave enough to be honest, and wise enough to choose each other over and over again. That is real love. It is steady, it is intentional, and it is worth everything. Thank you for listening.